Welcome to Hooked on Wooden Boats, podcast episode number 181. I'm your host, Dan Matson, aka Wooden Boat Dan. If you can't do it, probably a lot of people can. And this is the world's first podcast fully dedicated to celebrating the art, craft, history, tradition, and romance of wooden vessels around the world. Thanks for joining me today for the second podcast of the year. Yeah, it's been a slow start to the podcast this year. But I've got some interviews that I recorded last September that I'm going to be playing here over the next few months. And I was actually just listening to an interview that I recorded and got kind of excited about it again. So anyway, thanks for tuning in today. Great to have you on board. I'm recording this on May 25th, 2016. If you've been following the podcast, you know that I'm working on a Scamp sailboat. And I've got one I'm working on and one that I'm selling. That's a kit that's partially completed. That's the one I'm selling, asking $3,500. If you are interested, shoot me an email, woodenboatdan@gmail.com. So on the other boat, what I've been doing is working on the mast. I think I mentioned that last time. Well, okay, so here's the deal about wooden boats, right? My boats are what I call 3-foot boats, which means that they look really good from 3 feet or further away. But if you get up real close and you touch, you're going to see some flaws. Now, this doesn't mean that the boats don't function properly, that they don't look good, that they're not artistic and creative and fun. It just means they're not perfect. So I'm building this mast for the Scamp, which basically is complete at this point. It's a 16-foot, 4-inch mast. And it tapers from being 3 inches round at the bottom to 2 inches round at the top. And as I mentioned before, I laminated I guess you could call it laminating, epoxied together 4 pieces of Sitka spruce, and I hauled the 2 center pieces out in select places, which actually ended up making the mast 5 pounds lighter, because I weighed it before and after I routed out the hollow spots. So after I did that, I ended up with a block of wood that was approximately 3 inches by 3 inches rectangular and then tapered to, well, no, it didn't taper at that point. Okay, so then I had to get it to be round. So what did I do? I started marking. First, I made a mast. What's the word I'm looking for? A mast marking tool. That's not the right word. But anyway, it's a way of converting a 4-sided block to 8 sides and then 8 to 16. Well, my mast, I didn't like my mast gauge. I guess it's called a gauge. I didn't like it. I had a hard time getting it to just consistently draw a line for me. I just felt like it's not accurate. So I probably didn't build it right. I didn't know what I was doing. I was reading this article. So I thought, well, I'm a math guy. I'll just do the math. So I did some math, and at each point along the mast, each section where the diameter of the mast changes, I marked lines there so that it would take it down to 8 sides from 4. So I got those all marked. I connected the lines or the dots, and I took my little low-angle block plane, which I use for everything, and I planed it down to 8 sides. So then I'm thinking, okay, now I'm going to do some more math. I'm going to take it down to 16 sides. Well, here's where I ran into problems, folks. I marked it, got it all set up to take it to 16 sides. And instead, what I did was I started taking it to 8 sides again. Oh boy. I realized that when I had planed 2 sides down. So now I was left with kind of a oblong-ish looking chunk of wood because I had taken 2 sides down a little bit too far. Well, fortunately, there was still enough material there to get really, really, really close to having a round piece of wood that fit the correct dimensions of the mast. So anyway, I recovered from that error, and it ended up hand planing and sanding, and the mast is almost round. You got to look pretty close to see that there's a little bit of a flat spot in a couple places. But it's basically structurally very sound, and it looks good. And I almost had a heart attack thinking that I might have to start over on it, but I did recover, so I'm really thankful for it, because I didn't want to start over. Because, folks, I had a lot of hours into this mast. Now, obviously, I don't work on it every day. Sometimes I haven't worked on it for a week or two, but I actually bought the material to build the mast last October. So anyway, I got the mast all sanded down, rounded off as best I could, cut it to length, tapered the ends, and I've got it up on the wall in my garage on a couple of shelf brackets, so it's out of the way, it's not going to get damaged. So I got that done, so I'm pretty happy about that. So now I'm on to the boom for the boat, which apparently I've talked to some guys that have built scamps, and where the downhaul connects to the boom, the standard size boom that's recommended in the plans is a little bit light, and so if you really reef down on the downhaul to try to take the luff out of the sail, you can get some flex in the boom, so you can't get rid of all the luff. It's probably not a big deal, but I decided to make mine a little bit beefier. So I'm actually, instead of it being, I think the plans call for 1¼ by 2¼ solid stock. So instead of that, I'm going to end up with one that's, 1½ by 2¼ is what the plans call for. I'm going to end up with one that's 1¾ by about 2½ deep, and it's going to be 3 pieces of laminated Douglas fir instead of Sitka spruce. And from what I've read, Douglas fir is 19% heavier than Sitka spruce, so I'm guessing that this, I don't know what the boom's going to weigh, but it may be a pound or 2 heavier than if it were Sitka spruce when I'm all done. But that Douglas fir is a little bit stronger, even though technically it's a softwood like Sitka. It is a little bit stiffer and stronger. And this is vertical grain Doug fir, and it's 3 chunks laminated together on top of each other. So I think it'll give a little more stiffness to the boom and improve that downhaul capability a little bit. So I'm getting ready to laminate my 3 pieces of Doug fir together right now and get that shaped. Then I'll be on to the yard, which I am going to build out of Sitka spruce per the plans. I think it's 1 3/4 inches in diameter. It's 10 or 11 or 12 feet long, something like that. And by the way, I got all done with the mast, and it weighed 15.3 pounds. So I was very happy, because I think I've read that guys, most of their masts, even bird's mouth, are around 15 pounds. So anyway, I am making progress on the scamp. I'm motivated. I want to get the boat done. I want to get it in the water. I want to use it. I want to have some fun with it. So there you go. There's a scamp update. Other than that, it's pretty much business as usual at our house. A friend of mine found on Craigslist a 17-foot core sound cat catch sailboat, and so I went to look at it with him, and it's a great boat. It needs a new mast and a little bit of TLC, but it's a very solid boat. Came with a little 2.5 horsepower 4-stroke Honda and a trailer and nice sails and all the rigging and a few extras. He got a good deal on it, so that was kind of fun. I'm going to probably help him find the resources he needs to get the boat all ready to go. He's really excited, so nice job, Brian. Okay, we're going to swing into today's featured segment, which is an interview with John Harris of Chesapeake Light Craft in Annapolis, Maryland. They're a very large, I think they're the largest actually, kit boat company. And John talks about a lot of fun stuff on the interview, including the paddleboard mania that's going on, and they've sold a lot paddleboard kits. He talks about his ultralight dinghy that's a little bit under 8 feet long and weighs 37 pounds, holds 2 adults and a kid. Talks a little bit about his new design, a Southwest Dory, which is a cat catch with an optional outboard well in the boat. You could use it as an electric launch, really cool boat, and some other fun stuff. So hope you enjoy the interview. Take it away, John. So it is September 11th, 2015. I'm with John Harris of Chesapeake Lightcraft. John, welcome back to the podcast.
It's great to be here, Dan.
It's our annual tradition now to sit on a picnic bench in Port Townsend in the sun during the festival and talk about boats.
It's wonderful to be here. I'm still trying to imagine what it would be here and not actually be working, but I still, look, I'm not at a trade show selling hydraulic fluid. I'm surrounded by many of the most beautiful wooden boats in the world, and it's just great to be here, and I feel very lucky. And it's a great vibe, and it's the Wooden Boat Festival, and it's a festival. I go to a lot of shows. I go 20 shows a year. And this show, more than anything, is a festival. It's a big party. There's food. There's just people hanging out. People go sailing every afternoon. You see the boats out sailing instead of just being on kind of static display. And there's music, and the vibe is great. And I look forward to this one every year, and daydream about coming out here and not having to bring 24 boats on 2 trucks.
Wow, 24 boats. What was the first year you guys came out here, John?
I believe 2000.
2000, okay.
We came out in the 90s at one point when we had a dealership in Seattle, and we were in their booth. But the first time I think we came under our own steam was around 2000.
Okay, and that was the year that I think they were still doing the paddling symposium, like the weekend after or something.
That's right, and that went on for many years. The West Coast Sea Kayak Symposium was over here at Fort Worden.
Yeah.
So we would come out and do the Wooden Boat Festival, and then stay over the week and do that show as well, and kind of do a double header, and maybe do a show in between even. The kayak symposium unfortunately
didn't make it. Huh?
Yeah, it just got smaller and smaller, and but what a wonderful place to spend some time on the water.
Yeah, that was the first time my wife and I got to try out one of your boats, the double.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, sure.
Over there at Fort Worden.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Kind of opened our eyes to, wow, this is a small but very seaworthy rig. I mean, we felt like you're out on the ocean. It felt really good.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great symposium. I can remember in the at the height of the sea kayak craze in the 90s and early 2000s, there would be almost a mile of kayaks lined up rail to rail. I mean, just hundreds of them, and it was quite a sight.
On the beach there.
And there still are some shows like that, but not as much.
You think that sea kayaking kind of waned a little bit in favor of other things?
No, I don't
John,
think it waned. I think it plateaued is what it did.
Okay.
And, we see that in the numbers. And I think interest in sea kayaking and in building your own sea kayak, which is, of course, our peculiar specialty, remains very strong. But the kind of near crazed growth that we saw from, say, 1995 to 2000 seems to be long over. And I think it's probably for many reasons. There are other ways to get out on the water that weren't around in 1995, like stand-up paddleboards, for example, are now. Frankly, they're probably bigger now than sea kayaking ever was, and that's another way. So if you're 23 years old and have a little bit of disposable income, you may be getting a stand-up paddleboard, whereas in 1995, you might have been thinking about getting a narrow, high-performance sea kayak. These are generalizations, but we kind of see it in the numbers, and
Yeah.
But sea kayaks are still chugging along and remain the mainstay of our business for sure.
Okay, but you sell a big percentage of your sales as paddleboards now, John?
Oh yeah. It is the number one seller at Chesapeake Lightcraft. Stand-up paddleboards, and for a while there we had to actually have a subcontractor helping us cut the kits so we could cut them fast.
Serious? How many kits do you think you've sold for paddleboards?
I'd say well into the 4 digits at this point.
Wow.
So we're still interested in that, in developing that. I think we're going to be working on options for strip planked, cedar strip planked stand-up paddleboards, something that kind of our customers are already doing on their own, and we'd like to have an option to build the kits that way, and also different sizes and shapes for different kinds of usages. Now there's a new thing, you wouldn't know it, but here you are. People are doing a lot of fishing off of stand-up paddleboards. So,
really?
that requires obviously an SUP with more stability and a little more room. That people are putting thermoses and tackle boxes and things like that on stand-up paddleboards and going fishing in them. And why not? Because you can get into the most amazingly skinny little waters in a boat like that. Not a boat, a board like that, and. It's a neat way to see the water.
Like 2 inches of draft or something. Or
well, I guess
inches?
they have fins, but still,
okay,
still you can kind of maneuver into tight corners and here's the thing about stand-up paddleboards that if you haven't done it, you just won't get until you try it. But it's the whole visibility aspect. Your eyeballs are now well off the water compared to, say, if you're in a kayak or a rowing boat. You're so much higher off the water that your visibility is greatly increased, and it works not only kind of over distances, but also you're now looking down into the water at a much less oblique angle than in a kayak. So you can see straight down into clear waters like we have here in Port Townsend and see a great deal more from a stand-up paddleboard. Something that I would have not guessed until I got into stand-up paddleboarding. So it is here to stay. It's not a fad. It's wonderful, and unlike traditional surfing, it's something that you can enjoy on your very first try. Whereas actually surfing in the surf is going to take months and years of practice to get reasonably good at. With an SUP, you can enjoy yourself on day one. And
so are the SUPs your design, John?
They are. With much input from our West Coast agent, Larry Froley, who is a stand-up paddleboard instructor, and he has been the main contributor to the design of these things, and I don't want to. You wouldn't believe me if I told you how many prototypes we had to build to get it right. I think between the two sizes we had, it was more than 20 boards that we built and tried, and then refined, and then built another one, and then refined, and tried it, and then built another one, and then even as even as we settled down the board shape, we found ourselves refining the construction to make them lighter and stiffer and easier to build. And so there have been so many versions I can't keep them straight sometimes. And
how many different versions do you sell now?
Just 2. We have a 12.6 and a 14.
Okay.
And, soon to be adding a higher volume, larger version for either for big and tall folks or for people who want to go fishing and that sort of thing.
Yeah. What do those rigs weigh, John, when they're done?
The 12.6 and the 14 are between 28 and 32 pounds.
Okay. Made with 6mm Okumi? Or?
They're thinner than that. They're made out of 3mm and 4mm Okumi marine plywood with a thin layer of fiberglass. The decks are strongly reinforced because they're point loaded when you're standing on them. So they've got glass on both sides and a kind of an eggshell grid of framework inside.
I see. How many panels comprise the outside of those boats then?
The boards are V-bottomed in the front half and flat-bottomed in the rear. So, I mean, ultimately it's a 4-panel hull.
Is it a stitch and glue?
It's stitch and glue. Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very easy to build. It would be an ideal first project for somebody.
Really?
I mean, really intended for a first timer.
Yeah. Very cool. So, John, tell us what else you guys have been working on at Chesapeake as far as new designs. I noticed one that caught my eye was an ultralight dinghy that you're working on.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about that. It's kind of fun.
We've got a whole bunch of stuff in the pipeline. Emphasis on pipeline, which is to say, not ready yet. But I, for family reasons, found myself suddenly at the helm of a larger cruising sailboat, 27-footer, and in need of a dinghy. And now that I'm 43, I find that the dinghy that I could lift over my head when I was 27 is impossible to pick up and put on the car. The 70-pound dinghy. Yeah, right. Yeah, the 70-pound dinghy that I used to hump onto the car solo.
Yeah.
I just can't lift it anymore, and so I needed a super duper light dinghy that could hold myself and my wife and my daughter, and that I could get on the car by myself even when I was tired. I mean, because what you can do bright and fresh in the morning compared to what you can do after work when you're in a bad mood is usually different. So I did this tiny lapstrake dinghy made out of 4mm Okumi plywood, and we weighed it the other day on the digital scale, and it was 37.4 pounds, and I can truly lift it over my head and put it on the car, and it rows pretty well. I mean, it's just a rowing boat. You can't put an outboard on it. No, there's not a sailing option, just to forestall all the emails I'm going to get. And it was really just for me, and I didn't have really any intention of putting it out there, but I wrote a blog post about it, and was promptly overwhelmed with emails and calls from people ready to order right then. So of course,
wow.
The next step is I need a proper instruction manual, and that's mostly been done. And in fact, it's one of our first manuals. It's online.
Oh, cool!
We're starting to put the instruction manuals entirely on the web, so you can, and they're kind of wiki style, so you can contribute to the manual as you think of improvements.
Wow!
That's something that we're starting to do with all of our manuals gradually.
Very cool.
So what I did was put the ultralight dinghies manual online. You can go to clcboats.com. Just click on the blog post, which is currently on the front page, the ultralight dinghy experiment, it's called, and read all about it, and then you can read the instruction manual and with photographs and so on. Very easy to build, very quick to build. I think you can build the thing with a nice finish in 50 hours. So,
what is it? 6 foot long?
It's 6 feet long, yeah. But length is not size, as I'm fond of reminding people, and it has a payload of something like 400 pounds. So,
oh wow!
And we've tried it, and it really, even. It still rows well, even with a heavy load in it.
Flat bottom or a little V to it?
It's round. I mean, it's got it's lapstrake, and it has lots of narrow planks to give it stiffness. So, it's basically a U shape.
Yeah.
I mean, to be clear, and I'm very clear about that in my writing about it, it's not going to be like stepping into an inflatable dinghy. I compare it more to like stepping into a wider kayak or something like that, or into a canoe, because it's a little tender. I mean, it is a little tender, literally and figuratively.
What's a beam on?
I think it's 42 inches. Something like that. So,
yeah,
a great solution for someone who's got a small, cruising yacht and maybe not a lot of deck space to store a boat, or like me, you're in dreadful physical condition and can't lift a heavy dinghy over your head, and it'd be a good one.
So you've got that on your sailboat, huh?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I even cut the transom so it fits the top of the coach roof. Upside down. So
what kind of sailboat did you get?
It's a white plastic sloop.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a CNC 27 Mark V. It's an MRC racing boat,
Cool.
and it's lovely, and it's a great knockabout, family knockabout, and I had actually, this is relevant to the Wooden Boat Festival and Chesapeake Lightcraft, but I had acquired a old British itch and ferry cutter project in need of massive restoration, and had resolved to make this the family sailboat, having sold my high-strung, very fast 31-foot multi-hull.
The Proa?
Yeah, the Proa.
You sold the Proa?
Yeah, I did. Well, it just, young. It was not the right fit for a young family. So
Yeah.
it was just a little high-strung for that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I had this project, this heavy, full-keeled itch and ferry cutter, and typical John Harris ambition, not meeting reality. I resolved that I would work on this project every Tuesday, and it would be my sort of decompression time, and I would after maybe 2 years of Tuesdays, I'd have this thing in shape for a nice family pocket cruiser, and it lasted one Tuesday. And then the project was rolled out into the CLC parking lot, and where it has remained ever since. And meanwhile, you can buy cruising sailboats by the pound right now. I mean, there's never in the history of mankind been a softer used boat market. So for something like half of what just my materials cost in restoring this boat was, I was able to buy a beautiful boat with new sails and a rebuilt Yanmar diesel.
Oh my goodness!
And be sailing. So that's sort of the world we're living in right now. And, and again, this is kind of relevant to Chesapeake Lightcraft because I think all the time about the fact that our competition. We're in the build your own boat kit business, and our competition really is. A boat that's already built, right? I mean, you get two kinds of customers. Either they can't find the boat that they want, and so they're going to have to build it, because you just can't buy it. Or they love to build things, and they enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And so two kinds of customers. Either that's the only way they're going to get the boat that they need for their use, or they just love building things. So. So with the used boat market, as soft as it is, and old and nice fiberglass boats being sold off by the pound, I have come at this axiom, which I have immodestly named the Harris Rule. And the Harris Rule says that any new kit design that we come out with has to be cheaper, persuasively cheaper than something you could find on Craigslist already built that has similar performance.
Oh, wow.
That's the Harris Rule, and it really is kind of a great filter for all of the wild projects that we think up that could become kit boats. And the reality is that let's be honest, a $6,000 or $7,000 or $10,000 boat kit doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the year 2015 unless it's some design that you just can't get anywhere else, or you just really, really want a project. So
yeah.
So,
wow, interesting.
So we're coming out with some larger and more complex designs, but always hovering over our decisions about these things is the Harris Rule, which is to say, is this kit going to be so expensive by the time we've gotten all the hardware gathered up, and by the time we've done all the naval architecture, and by the time we've written a 300-page instruction manual, is this going to make financial sense for anybody, including us, to do? So, I think the happy consequence is that the rule keeps pointing to doing small, fun boats, and those are the kinds of boats that I just happen to love. So, I think you're not going to see Chesapeake Lightcraft launching into a range of, 24-foot pocket cruisers because it doesn't make sense financially.
Yeah.
When you can go buy for a couple of grand, you can go buy a pretty nice fiberglass pocket cruiser.
Right.
that maybe needs some Clorox and a suit of sails, but you're going to be sailing with tomorrow. Otherwise,
right.
as opposed to building a boat that's going to take a year or 2 years or something to build. So, that's how we're thinking about the design process. We nevertheless have lots of interesting and fairly intricate boats coming out. Now and
you want to tell us about one or two of those, John?
Yeah, we've got a couple here at the show that are very interesting. A new boat that's been in the works now for just over a year. It's the Southwester Dory. Long-time listeners may be familiar with Chesapeake Lightcraft's Northeaster Dory, a very, very popular 17-footer. I believe we sold our 500th Northeaster Dory kit about a year ago. Haven't done a count since then. But we're selling something like 125 of them a year. A very, very popular and fun boat. But lots of requests in hand for a larger version that could take an outboard auxiliary, perhaps. And so we came up with this 19-foot dory called the Southwester Dory. It's rigged as a cat catch, and it's a very easy to sail, very easy to use boat with built-in seats. So it's a boat you've got, proper seats. You sit, you don't sit on the bottom as you do with so many lightweight boats. And it's got an optional outboard well. That's a plug-in module. You can put a small outboard in, up to 5 horsepower. What we quickly discovered was that while it makes it a beautiful sailboat and rows really well too, because it's so light, less than 300 pounds, we found that it was also a first-class motor launch, rigged with a bimini and, as you can see in our booth over there, and with a small outboard, you can take 4 adults, and just uses hardly any fuel at all. Very
cool.
easy.
Just go cruising.
Yeah, be a
low-speed
perfect
cruising,
low-speed cruiser. Yeah, just displacement boat. It's not a planing boat, but it'd be a absolutely first-class electric launch for the new generation of electric motors like torpedoes and otherwise. So a great boat with that. But the outboard well also works if you're sailing too. It's got a plug for the aperture, so you don't have to drag that opening in the bottom of the hull through the water while you're sailing. And
you can plug it, huh?
Yeah. You put a plug in
it
there.
from above, John?
Plug it from above, yeah.
Really?
And just 2 little cam locks. Put a plug in, and so you've got a perfectly fair bottom then, and with the outboard kicked up, and it sails great. And I think you'll be seeing a lot more about that boat in print and coming over the next year as we roll it out. We've begun shipping kits for that now.
Lots of flat bottom boat.
It's a dory. It's an absolutely traditional dory. I mean, just pretty much right out of the John Gardner dory book.
Okay.
It's a round-sided dory, or a Swampscott dory, or a Nahant dory, depending on which chapter you're reading. It's chapter and verse, a traditional dory, the kind of boat that you'd find around the turn of the last century, being used basically as the way Boston whalers are used now. It was what you went out and bought.
Utility boat.
Yeah, kind of a utility boat.
Cool.
So nice boat, lightweight, under 300 pounds. Strip, so very small trailer.
Yeah. What other? Any other ones you want to
Well,
talk
we
about,
have some
John?
other fun boats here, and I know we mentioned this last year when we met. We've got an outrigger sailboat coming out, the Outrigger Junior. It's here at the show. It's a 15-footer. It demounts. It's 12 feet wide when it's assembled, which translates into a lot of stability, which translates into a lot of sail carrying power. It means it's really fast and fun and easy to sail. It's stable.
So that's different than a catamaran.
Yeah, right. It's an outrigger. It's not a proa. A proa is a peculiar species of sailboat that changes bow for stern when you tack. And we won't go into that because we could spend the rest of the podcast on that. But an outrigger, tacks conventionally upwind. So like an ordinary catamaran, it has a port and a starboard side and a bow and a stern. But it has one big hull and one little hull. Mm-hmm. Now, one refinement with CLC's Outrigger Junior is that the little hull is really the same length as the big hull. It's so very, very low resistance. So instead of having a good tack and a bad tack, as you might expect with an asymmetrical boat, then it has a great tack and an even better tack, basically. And contrary to what everyone thinks, the fastest tack is the one with the outrigger in the water. You would think it'd be the tack where the outrigger is out of the water or skimming the water, but it's actually it's
to do with physics.
You've got all this. You've got a huge amount of stability, and also the fact that we made that hull as long as the main hull, and it's a very low resistance hull. So that's the point of sail when you can just drive that boat and it just goes faster and faster and faster, and the speeds mount into the teens. And but it's fun, and compared to something like a HOWB cat, a great deal more ergonomic. It's got proper bench seating for the crew, so you're kind of up and out of the water, and your butt is higher than your heels, and it's fun to sail. It's just a ton of fun to sail. We've been taking our time bringing that one to market because it has a very, very careful and intricately detailed instruction manual. Mm-hmm. So you can't buy one right now, but
so do you sit inside the main hull of that boat then?
No, it's
you sit up on top.
You sit up on top, but the bench seats are kind of raised up. So so again, your heels are lower than your thighs, and so it's everybody who sails it remarks on how cushy it is. It's just a very, very comfortable ride as multi-hulls go, and it's enjoyed a fairly long development and prototyping process, and I've taken it kind of around the country to different oceanic conditions to try it in sailing. To try sailing it in the surf, for example. I spent a week sailing it in the surf last summer, and it does great. Look, it's a 50-foot multi-hull. It's going to be a little bit wet. You're not going to get a boat that goes 14 knots, in the surf. That's not going to be a little bit wet. But but again, compared to the old HOWB 14, HOWB 16, it's a lovely boat to handle, and there's been a lot of excitement about it. And I think that it has the potential to do what I always hoped, which is to maybe revive the kind of interest that the old Malibu outrigger had in the 1950s and the 1960s.
Interesting. Sounds good. So it's one more quick question. I'll wrap it up, John. I'm just curious where you think the wooden boat industry will be in the next 5 or 10 years. Any changes you foresee coming, or what direction we're going maybe? Well,
I've said this here before, but we are living in a golden age of the build-it-yourself boat. If you look back at the wonderful books and magazines that were coming out in the 1920s and 30s, you can build your own boat. These kind of popular mechanics style things. That was a big deal. And there was a lot less of a used boat market back then. But these were hard boats to build by 2015 standards. They really did require careful joinery. You didn't have the adhesive technologies that we have today. You didn't have the quality of plywood. You didn't have plywood at all in many cases. So we're living in a time of an amazing convergence of materials technology and design technology. We have this incredibly high quality marine plywood. We've got epoxies that are very, very easy to use compared to even 30 years ago. And we have computer technology allowing us to design easy to build boats that are getting closer and closer to IKEA furniture every year. And if you just go out there on the World Wide Web and take a look at what's available to the build-your-own-boat cohort. There has never in all of history been more choices and more incredibly intriguing and interesting designs out there. And I'm just sort of like looking around where we're sitting here at all of the variety of boats.
Yeah.
There's one of Matt Layden's incomparable little cruisers over there. That's just so clever. You can spend an hour looking at it, and all of these, just wondrous, strange variety of stitch and glue boats that are now available. As the software gets more powerful and allows us to do ever more elegant and interesting shapes. So I think that over the next 10 years plus, what you're going to see is are resources available to the home builder that were just unimaginable even when I was a kid, and they're going to be more and more of the type of thing that you can download, and maybe you'll be able to download a set of plans, and you'll go to your local maker space, which is the new term of art, for a co-op kind of thing, where there's a CNC machine, and cut the parts there on the co-op CNC machine, at this maker space, and because it's downloadable, you'll have the choice of thousands of different boats and the ability to just choose exactly what you want to build, and something that's exactly suited to your conditions and exactly what suits your fancy is something that was just unimaginable even 20 years ago when I was just getting going at Chesapeake Lightcraft.
Yeah, cool. That sounds awesome.
It's a great time to want to build a boat, and you should go out and build a boat. I hope you build a Chesapeake Lightcraft boat, but if you don't, this is a great time to build any boat. So
okay. And John, what's the contact information for your company?
clcboats.com is our website, or ChesapeakeLightcraft.com. You will come right up and set aside an evening. There's loads of video there, free content, tips, tricks, a rollicking bulletin board, and of course my blog, The Life of Boats, where I'm always experimenting with something strange and curious and occasionally even successful.
That's good. Well, thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate it, John.
My pleasure, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll see you next year. Thanks. John, thanks for doing the interview. I really appreciate it. If you would like to subscribe to my podcast, you can go to hookedonwoodenboats.com/subscribe. If you would like to send me an email, my email address is woodenboatdan@gmail.com. If you would like to purchase my ebook, you just go to my website and you can purchase it there. It's about building your first wooden boat and what that looks like and what it might cost and how long it might take. There's also some other resources on my website. And if you do make purchases on Amazon, if you would go through my link first, I get paid a small commission, which helps pay for the podcast. That link is hookedonwoodenboats.com/Amazon. Have a great day. Keep the bright side up and the barnacled side down. We'll talk again soon. Wooden Boat Dan, over and out.